Welcome to MTA International Studios in Los Angeles, California. This is Open Forum, and today we're going to talk about how to build a successful business, from coming up with the idea and how innovation works to building a successful company, whereas it would take how do you hire people, how do you do marketing, how do you do sales, and then what do you do once you have built a business that's growing larger and larger. We have two great guests with us today. On my right is Khurram Shah, who runs his own successful entrepreneur and a businessman in Bay Point, California. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here. And next we have Faisal Sohail, who's been a serial entrepreneur and currently works in the venture capital industry in San Francisco, California. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So Faisal, let's start with you. Let's talk about innovation real quick before we go into building a specific business. How does innovation work? How do you solve a problem where you would think that large companies can only solve these difficult problems that you've seen smaller entrepreneur startups solve?
Yeah, that's a great thing about innovation, is that not all innovation comes from large companies. If it did, then we would have no role in our business, because you wouldn't have startups creating new ideas. What happens is large companies typically get very tied up with their existing businesses, their existing products, and taking care of existing customers, and often miss new large spaces that are being created because they're so focused on their existing customers and existing products. So what we look for is, in terms of innovation, is people who can think about what are the white spaces, meaning that there is no competition yet, and it's a big problem. There's a large
What is a white space?
White space is where you have no current solution. It's a new space. For example, if you think about Uber, it was a white space 5 years ago.
So Uber is this company where you can get a ride through your phone?
Through your phone. So there was no other company doing anything like that. So it was a white space. So that essentially created a whole new market very quickly. Right. So that's what we look for. We look for ideas where there is a large need from customer base and nobody's addressing that need.
So, but I would still argue with you that these large companies, they have the smartest minds, all the resources in the world. Why would an Uber small company do that? Why couldn't an IBM, or where they have hundreds of thousands of employees, all the resources in the world, why didn't they solve that problem?
Yeah, typically you wouldn't have, because IBM is in a very different business, so they wouldn't solve it. So typically you might think that a taxi company may have solved this problem, or you might think a automotive company may have solved this problem. But typically what happens is these companies are so busy running their existing businesses, and often the biggest issue is that they don't want to cannibalize their own business. So the reason a lot of these companies don't go into
cannibalize means you take away from what you're currently doing?
Exactly. Okay. So you essentially, you hurt your own business to create a new business. Most companies and most leaders don't have that mindset. So they want to continue running their own business. So they miss these large opportunities, macro opportunities that shift whole industries. So that's what
Kodak
innovation.
Example, is that a good one?
Instagram and Kodak is a great example. I mean, Kodak, 150-year-old company, and went bankrupt with tens of thousands of employees a couple of years ago, while Instagram, 12-month-old company, has taken over the entire photo space. So you see that old companies have a hard time innovating because they have to essentially cannibalize or hurt their existing businesses, and that's just not in the human DNA.
Their best interest. Yeah. So Khurram, tell me the mindset of an entrepreneur when they start a new business. I mean, a lot of folks want a comfortable job. Their parents have told them, go to school, or go work hard, go work in a company, health insurance, all those things, the company will take care of you. Who in their right mind would leave all that security to start something? And don't most startups fail anyways?
So first, before I get into that, I want to say that people come to me all the time and say, you should do this or you should do this. Other potential spin-offs from what I'm doing already.
What do you do? Let's start there.
Okay, so I own a towing company. Towing and transport, and
towing is towing cars.
Towing cars to centralized locations for insurance companies mainly, and we're towing about 600 cars a day.
600 cars a day.
A day,
and these are mostly around the United States.
Not everywhere, but
a lot of places.
in I think 8 different cities.
Okay.
So so that's what we do. We recover these vehicles for the insurance companies, and then the insurance companies are able to sell these vehicles that they've already paid the owners off for their total losses. So that's what we do now. But I want to come back. I want to come back on this. Now, people tell me all the time, hey, you should do this or such and such, and my answer is that I don't want to get bogged down in trying something different and then lose the focus, my goal on trying to do what I'm doing already better. My goal is always to make that process better, and if I make that process better, my customer's happy, and if my customer's happy, then I can win more business. Not only with that customer, but I can show others, look how I'm doing this, and compared to how my competitor's doing it, I can provide better efficiency. So I would rather focus on my business than go and try to do other businesses. So and sometimes I might be passing up, some good opportunities, but the risk is that if I lose my focus, which that's the word I use. Not to get into too technical, but if I lose my focus, or if I lose my attention on what I'm doing, I might lose that as well.
You wouldn't go compete. But tell me the mindset of when you started this business, right? As an entrepreneur, going from working at a company where you get a regular paycheck to being an entrepreneur. You both have done this.
Yeah. So I actually never worked for anyone else.
Really?
So we had a family business, and my father had an auto body repair shop. So my idea was to start a towing company and to supplement some of the business that we already had, to bring in cars to the you tow cars in, you fix them up, that type of a that was the idea.
So that was the core of your idea.
That was the idea, to bring more customers into our door. Instead of them walking in, you bring them in limping, right? So although that didn't work out so well, but I found that I had to figure out ways, now that I had a truck or two, I had to figure out ways how to fill these trucks. So that's when I went out looking for customers, and opportunities. And I was fortunate enough to find such an opportunity. And 17, 18 years later, where I was doing maybe 4 to 6 cars a day, now we're doing 600 cars a day, right? Yeah. So that takes time, and it takes time to develop that. But coming from a person who it was a risk, right? Do I stop doing what we're doing as far as businesses as a body shop and going to this line? It's something that attracted me because I felt that could grow. So I really, now I look back and I wouldn't have done it, right? You think about it, I wouldn't have done it, but in that case I did. So from the perspective of what people think of, and people come to me all the time and ask me what business they should do and what their fears are. And of course the fears are that they need capital. Capital is very difficult to get for
capital is the money they need to start a new business.
Money to start a new business. That could be money to buy a tow truck, or that could be money to pay rent for 6 months if you have a location or something like that, right? So having capital, or if you're opening a restaurant, you need capital. You still, some of these smaller businesses,
need money.
You still need some money. And not only do you need that some money, but you have to be able to support that even in the beginning stages, because you're not going to have the business to support it, right?
So switching the mindset from working for someone. So Faisal, from working for someone, you made this transition. You worked inside companies and then become an entrepreneur as well. How do you decide? How does innovation work? How do you find opportunity? How do you know you've got an Uber on your hands?
I think you always have to be kind of thinking about what's going to disrupt. So I'd love to talk about your business for a second. So you tow cars. We know where cars are going. Cars are going to be autonomous in 2 to 3 years. So next thing, guess what? I may not need a tow truck. I just need a cell phone app that pushes a button, says, bring that car over here. Right. And the car just drives itself.
Right.
So that could disrupt your business. So those are the types of things you always have to keep an eye on as to what is happening in technology, what is happening in markets, and will things change? They may not. For 20 years, it may be the same. Or in 5 years, you could have cars that just drive themselves to wherever the insurance company says, I want the car.
Or trucks that drive themselves.
Or trucks that drive themselves and tow the car. So those are the types of things that I think, constantly I'm thinking about, saying how are new technologies going to disrupt markets.
So, but bring me in the mind of an entrepreneur. It's typically a person working for somebody else, and now they've got to make a decision to shift and run their own business. They need money, they need all this risk.
I think the first thing is you need to see that there's a big problem that you are passionate about solving. So if you're not passionate about solving some big problem, then it's really hard to run your own business. It's very high risk. more failure than success. So my first startup was a programmable semiconductor microprocessor, a chip, because the industry did not have any programmable chips. Everything had to take 1 year for you to get your designs back. So we were like, well, how can we solve this problem? So it was a white space. It was a space where nobody existed, and we were able to start and build a large company very quickly because the customers loved, the idea, and it solved a large problem for the customers.
But you gave up a comfortable job.
Yes.
To go into a space where most do fail.
Most do fail, and by luck and prayers, it worked out, but no guarantee, of course.
Sure.
But I knew that if it worked, it was solving a very large problem.
But as Khurram said earlier, you need about 6 months of money in the bank to take care of yourself. It's not going to make money day one. There's a lot of challenges.
It could take longer.
Yeah.
It could take a lot longer. It could take 3 to 6 years.
It typically takes longer than you think it'll take, right?
It takes
always
a lot
does.
Yeah. Okay.
Always,
okay.
Yeah. But that's where I think I would say two things that are really, really important. One is capital, and the other is team. Because to build anything of large value, you need both.
But before we go there, though, help me understand the whole idea generation. So, you have an idea. Well, what if I build an Uber that beats taxis?
Sure.
Now, how do you take that crude idea and build it into an idea that, I assume you want to build some sort of a business plan. How do you go about even doing that? Are there tools online you can use? Like, how do you refine your idea?
The best way to refine an idea, there are a lot of tools online, there are a lot of consultants, you can read books, you can take classes to how to write a business plan. But the most important thing is take the product to a customer, prototype it, and take it to a customer and see if the customers, what is their feedback? Because often we fall in love with our own technology or our own solutions, our own ideas, and the customers are the ones who really need to fall in love with those ideas. So the best thing is take it to a customer.
So you're suggesting, let's go with your case study. You had an idea of what if I brought the cars to my body shop? Right. You took your truck, your customer said, yes, I need you to take this car to a body shop.
Right. So that wasn't going to happen every single time. So then I realized that every time a car wrecked, it wasn't going to be taken to my body shop. The customer could say, take it to such and such body shop. The customer has their preference. It could be, I would have had to convince them as well to take it to our body shop. So, and that's why that idea didn't really work the best, is because your chances of getting it to your body shop
but Faisal's point is, go test your idea to real customers. You seem like you did that, and you refined your idea.
That's right. So even now, we are developing an app, which we already have an app, but we're redeveloping it to where we provide enhanced features for our customers as well. Not just for us, but our customers can see it. So, and we take that to our customer and we show them that, hey, we're providing this to make better efficiencies for you. So and that's you have to take additional ideas, which we're doing.
So you take them to your customer, you have them play with it, and see if it works for them.
And one of the things that's helped in my business is that normally if a customer wants to know where their car is, they'll call our dispatch office. Our dispatch office will call the tow truck driver, and the tow truck driver might not answer the phone. Right, so they don't know where the car is, but now
you're solving that problem.
They know exactly where the tow truck driver is. So we're providing solutions. Right? So you take that and that for them, that might be the end of the rainbow, right? So which is a good thing.
Solves a big problem
solves
for
the
a
big
lot
problems.
of people.
But on a smaller scale, for smaller businesses or smaller small businesses. They have to be innovative. They have to figure out ways on how to improve, and it's the same thing.
So iterate. So understand the customer and then change along the way.
We call it pivot in the industry. That's sort of the jargon, but really is exactly what Khurram is talking about, which is refinement of the idea. You may need to add more services. You may need to do actually a different service. You may need to totally rethink it, but you only know that once you've taken to a customer.
But do you suggest, most people, have an idea in their head, I can do this. Do you suggest at least just writing it down so you can refine your idea, or how do you
Definitely.
Yeah, so you do
Definitely.
suggest, okay, before you go to customers, write some, okay.
Absolutely. Write it down, even prototype it,
Okay.
depending upon what it is. If it's an app and it takes a few weeks to prototype, if it's a different idea, actually prototype it, have something to show. Whether it is on paper conceptually or whether it is actual physical product.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Prototype it in that sense and take it to the customer, and you'll get amazing feedback.
Okay. And so let's assume now your company, you're up and running. You talked about team. How do you hire people? Building a team. How do you trust people? I mean, you hear horror stories about the worst case scenarios and the best case scenarios. Managing complex organizations is not that easy.
Right.
And being the boss doesn't mean everyone's going to listen to you.
No, certainly doesn't. I think building a team is one of the key success factors in any business. It's very hard to build a large business by yourself, no matter how good you are. It's just very hard. So the most important thing about the team is understanding what are your own strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
And then trying to find people that augment your weaknesses.
So what are the disciplines when you look at your strengths and weaknesses? What disciplines are you thinking about when you're looking at those?
In our case, typically we're looking at things like R&D, research side of things.
So R&D is research and development.
Research, development, engineering. Do you have the best of the best people who have the track record of having built the best products in that domain? And how do you get them excited? How do you get them to join your team? Then is people who do marketing, which is very critical, which is to get your message out to the masses. Mm-hmm. Then you have people in the sales and finance. So who's going to actually manage the money that you have? Who do you trust? Right. Who's actually going to go out to the customer? CEO or the founder should go out, talk to the customers always, like Khurram does, which is great. Yeah. But eventually, you're running a big business, so you need a team on the ground that is doing that for you. And how do you work with this team is really critical.
So, Khurram, in that example, you have one of your challenges. You have employees that are out on the road. They're not sitting in the office a lot of times. How do you trust and manage a team that's in 8 cities around the country, but also in those cities? I mean, these trucks are out and about. You don't even, you're going to come up with an app, but it's not easy.
Right. So I have a team of managers, and I trust them, and then I have somebody that's above them,
Sure.
and I trust him a lot. I do meet with my customers just to make sure that I always have a personal relationship or a business relationship with the customer. But I've empowered my managers to make decisions.
Empowering your team is important.
Empowering team is very important, right? Empowering team is very important. But of course, at my level, maintaining that relationship is very, very important as well. Because in a corporate environment, the one person's there one day, could be gone the next, and he could take his customers with him. So in my example, my customers know me. Right, they don't know, but once it gets bigger, you can't keep up with it. So it's not possible. But in my case, of course, you
get out there, but you build relationship with your team as well,
absolutely,
and build loyalty and relationships and trust. It seems.
Yeah, the trust is important. So there's a layer, right? So we might overlap sometimes. My customer might speak with my second person, and that person might say something, and then I have to cover,
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to make it work, right?
Sure.
But the key is we never say no.
We work through it.
We never said no.
Yeah.
So can you do this? Yeah, sure, we can do it.
Now,
we might not be able to do it, but
you'll figure it out.
We'll
figure it out.
Right?
That's great. Yeah. So Faisal, let's go back to, you talked about marketing or messaging, getting your message out to the masses. How does one go about doing that? You built think about a small business. I'm a one-man shop. I'm just getting off the ground. I don't have money for a big billboard or online advertising.
Yeah.
How do I start?
I think I've seen businesses built both ways, which is you have lots of money from venture capitalists or other sources, and you're taking out billboards on highways, and you're doing a lot of Facebook ads and Google ads. And that generates business, but often takes much longer to actually break even and get to profitability because you're spending so much on sales and marketing.
Right.
The businesses that I've seen that people have built amazingly on low capital, on less money, has been the word of mouth of the customer. And when your customer is delighted, not okay, not happy, but delighted, they become your biggest sales and marketing channel. I have one company in our portfolio, just to kind of give you a real life example. It's in the e-commerce space, and most e-commerce companies spend a lot of money to get that new customer.
So before we go there, so you're in venture capital, so you invest in companies,
Right.
And one of your companies that you've invested in,
One of the companies that we've invested in is doing extremely well, growing 200-300% a year, and profitably.
what is e-commerce?
E-commerce is where you buy anything on the web, so
Okay.
essentially Amazon type thing. But this is actually in makeup space, which is a very high margin space. And the customers love the products so much that they advertise on Facebook for us by talking to their whole network. And we get business, we get a lot of customers without ever spending any money.
So this
on
idea
marketing.
of word of mouth, is that the?
Yeah, so it's the word of mouth, but word of mouth from absolutely delighted customers.
Okay.
So that's the key to growing businesses without spending a lot of money.
So how do you market? How do you market?
That's it right there. You provide excellent service. That's the key. You don't leave any room for your customer or your customers or anyone they're talking to say, we gave them this job and they weren't able to do it. So that's the key. We don't let anyone get in.
But you have two customers, right? You have these insurance companies, but you also have the guy stranded on the side of the road who needs help.
Well, my business model doesn't really focus on the guy stranded on the side of the road. So I'm more of a straight insurance salvage.
So that's your primary customer, is the insurance person.
Now, part of my business does pay attention to that, but it's a very small part. Now, my focus is strictly on managing salvaged insurance vehicles. So for that, in that, they ask us to go pick up a car. For example, we did a job where there was a Mini Cooper at the base of the Treasure Island.
Treasure Islands in California, in
San Francisco Bay, and this vehicle was sitting next to seals, but on the south side of the island, which was inaccessible. So Geico Insurance asked us to, very complex, so they couldn't figure out how to do it. So I ended up hiring a barge with a crane to go get the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
And
so this was complex.
So you have to figure out how you're going to satisfy the customer. Now, Geico is going to remember. They're never going to forget it.
That you solved the problem.
That
so solving your problems is really important.
Solving the problems, very complex problems, is very important.
So all right. So let's transition real quick towards what advice do you have for young or whatever age budding entrepreneurs who want to start their own business? Where do they start? What should they be thinking about? How should they be thinking about it? And how should they? When should they know to get into a space? Khurram, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ideas, right? So young people will have an idea that we can do such or we could do such, and these are ideas, and sometimes to a person like me, I might say, this. To myself, I might say, I don't know how he's going to make this happen.
Yeah,
but it's interesting. You'll find people who have businesses, and you'll find out what kind of business it is, and like, how did you get into that, or where did that come from, right? So sure, it's people that
so what's your advice to
aren't
them?
in business. So my advice to them is that they should work very hard in trying to understand what they're doing, and then make sure that they do everything possible to make it happen. That's really my advice.
Okay, work hard, long hours, sweat
that's
equity.
That's right.
Some would call it, and then please your customer. Yeah. Okay, Faisal?
I would definitely. Sure. That is a must. Without that, I think it's very hard to succeed. A couple of advice I would say, assuming that you've picked a large market, larger addressable market, so it's an exciting opportunity. I would say, one of the first things you should do is go seek out mentors. Go seek out people who know something about that industry, somebody who's been successful in that industry or a related industry. Because those types of mentors not only can help you, but they can also connect you, they can open a lot of doors for you. So that is very important.
It's typically free. People want to help people.
People want to help. I mean, it's amazing. It's one of those things, especially in California. I think the everybody's happy to help somebody else
all around the world,
without any compensation initially.
Okay.
In long term, you might want to make them an advisor, might want to give them a board of director position and give them some compensation, but you don't have to do any of that. So looking for mentors is really, really critical. Second thing I think is you have to have access to capital. No business, it's very hard to build businesses by just bootstrapping. So whether that capital comes from angels, which is again people who are in the industries, friends, family that are willing to help you.
Angels are
Angel investors in our world are people who are willing to give you money for some of the equity of the company,
okay.
because they really believe in you and they believe in the idea.
Okay.
So essentially, I would say look for mentors first.
Look for mentors. Look for angels.
Look for angels second.
Sound like religion. This is great.
And then with those two, try to find your first few customers so you can actually try the product and see, do you have the product correct?
I see.
Or do you need to refine, as Karan was talking about, or pivot, or totally change the product to a different product? You know, so it could be one of those three things. It could be a minor tweak. It could be adding a few more features, or it could be sort of saying, well, this doesn't work. We're going to do something different.
Great. So now let's talk about you built a business. It's up and running. What do you do now? Now, we'll do the lightning round, some quick answers. But what do you do now? Do you continue to build it? I mean, because managing people, it gets tough.
Right. So in my line of business, there's we built it. Now what do we do? Right. This is what you're saying. So now what you do? But in the middle of that, there's always something going on. There's always new opportunities. There's always catastrophes. I'm in the auto business, right? And there's always going to be weather. There's always going to be
that probably helps your business.
Events, and sometimes we might have more work than we can manage. So it's to refine it even more. How do you make the processes better? Even better? How do you increase your profit, right? So it's just improving your business and then slowly growing it. That's what I'm doing right now. Improving it and then slowly growing.
So you continue to improve. Okay.
Yeah, and that might not be the best way, but that's what I'm doing.
That's great.
I'm improving it and slowly growing. Because if you grow too fast, then of course you can always.
You don't want to do too much.
Right.
So last question. I have very little capital, but I want to go into innovation and start a business. What markets would you suggest I look at?
I would suggest, I'll come back to your first question initially.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. If you're already working for someone, I would suggest that if you have some money and you're looking to start a business, I would suggest that you look inside that market.
Okay, something you know.
Something that you already know, something that's already being done, and try to figure out what you can do to improve that and how you can bring that to your customers.
Great point.
I'll give you a broader answer.
Okay.
3 big sectors that I see. Human population has gone from 500 million to 7 billion in the course of last 160 years.
Wow.
So Earth is very different. It's a lot of people. And it's going to go to somewhere between 9 and 16 billion over the next 50, 100 years. So it's a very large opportunity in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, and in terms of I would call autonomous AI, big data, computing, whether it is
AI is what?
Artificial intelligence, where essentially think about it this way. What the steam engine did for the human muscle, replace the human muscle so we were able to essentially do a lot more work. Human population grew from 500 million to 7 billion because we did not have to work the farms ourselves. We didn't have to create things ourselves. Machines did it. But the next phase is going to be the augmentation or adding to the human brain. In which case now essentially a computer, artificial intelligence can do a lot more than what a single brain can do. So that opens up a whole another set of ideas in robotics and.
So you said the first section you talk about education,
healthcare, and then autonomous.
Okay.
Or think about as big data, AI. That's where the world is headed.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being on the show. This has been Open Forum. We've learned about entrepreneurship from idea generation to building a business to exiting a business and where you can invest and where you can start your own business. We've had 2 great guests with us here today. This has been MTA International in Los Angeles, California studios with Open Forum. Thank you for joining us.